strange features all make this outcrop very interesting. Just look at this huge vein. It's resisted erosion while the surrounding rock has been slowly consumed by many years of water or wind action. At the top of the outcrop, there are some strange-looking nodules. Why is it that these nodules only appear on top of the structure? Could it be possible that the area was once a flowing river and those nodules couldn't form under the intense water pressure? Curiosity would love to stay here a little while longer, but it has a mountain to climb. On Sol 3325, more clouds are observed in the Martian sky. You can see their shadows rolling across the landscape. This series of images shows the view directly above the rover. On Sol 3396, Curiosity finds what some people are describing as a Martian flower. This strange object is smaller than a coin and is covered by a thick layer of Martian dust. At first glance, it looks like a plant. However, NASA believes this to simply be a cluster of mineral veins left over after the host rock completely eroded. We don't often see formations like this on Earth due to the higher gravity and denser atmosphere. On Sol 3415, Curiosity decides to once again climb up on top of the green hue pediment. The rover takes this mosaic at the top, but there's a problem. The top of green hue is littered with what scientists are calling gatorback rocks, which could damage Curiosity's wheels. The rover will have to get back down and find another way into the river channel. This view of green hue shows a sloping landscape in comparison to the level layers of the outcrops in the distance. Could green hue have been an ancient slope into water? The rover takes a closer look at these sharp rocks before descending once again. This is the second time the rover has climbed and then had to descend from the green hue pediment. On Sol 3492, the rover comes across some flaky rocks that look almost identical to some rocks back here on Earth created by streams and rivers. On its 10th birthday, the rover sits here at the start of the Geddes Vallis Channel. Its journey has been incredible. Curiosity has driven 17 miles or 28 kilometers. Curiosity has acquired almost 500,000 images, transmitted 31 terabytes of data, climbed more than 2,000 feet or 612 meters, and its findings have given way to 883 academic papers. The rover has proved beyond all reasonable doubt that water was once prevalent on Mars, and not just acidic water, but fresh water suitable for the creation of life as we know it. Curiosity has well outlasted its primary mission and will continue to roam the Martian surface for many years to come, until the failing of its final instrument. A newer generation of rover is already on the Martian surface, called Perseverance, doing everything that Curiosity could and more. The inclusion of a microphone for capturing Martian sounds, a helicopter to scout ahead, and higher quality cameras all make Perseverance the superior mission. But does it have the curiosity to continue?
You're watching Elder Fox TV. The journey with the Curiosity rover was nothing short of an emotional roller coaster, a saga of triumph and revelation. But now, brace yourselves for the arrival of Perseverance, the formidable big sister, poised to carve her own path across the Martian expanse. Join us as this extraordinary narrative unfolds, guiding us to the remnants of an ancient river on a distant side of Mars, where secrets of the past await discovery.
In just 3 short months, the Perseverance rover has captured over 70,000 images, multiple audio recordings, and more than 4 videos of the Mars helicopter in flight. Strange noises, undisclosed family portraits, and relics brought from Earth are just some of the things revealed over the first leg of this incredible mission. This is 3 months on Mars. February 18th, 2021. The Perseverance rover makes history by recording its descent and landing. A coded message is hidden in the coloring of the parachute, which reads the phrase, "Dare mighty things." The heat shield is released, giving us a clear view of the surface. The landing is fully automated. The craft is now checking for the best spot to land.
TerraClear delivers detailed maps showing the precise location and size of each rock. Knowing the time required to clear each field, TerraClear's solution allows you to
The
optimize your
Skycrane
time
maneuver
and resources.
is initiated.
Or if you don't have the labor or don't have the time, the TerraClear provider will pick for you. From small rocks to big rocks, TerraClear takes care of it all.
The video footage you are watching is currently being transmitted to the rover through a cable before the cable is cut and the
That's the
descent
freedom
stage
TerraClear
flies away
promises.
to crash land.
It's freedom from rocks, it's freedom to farm.
Here's
The
to a healthier
Perseverance
me
rover
with
is
these
safely
must-haves for
on the
healthy
ground.
days. The Aura Ring 4
This is
gets
the
me
first
going in the
color
morning.
image NASA
The ring,
receives.
along with the Aura membership, helps me prioritize my
We are
long-term
now
health goals.
in the Jezero
It tracks more than
crater,
30
which is thought to
biometrics,
be an
so I get
ancient
personal
river
insights that
delta.
help me know what my body
It's
needs.
not just the rover
The
that
design
has
is so
landed
sleek
on Mars.
and it's so comfortable.
Along with it is
I
the
didn't even realize I'm
Ingenuity
wearing it.
helicopter safely
Healthy
stowed
days need healthy
underneath,
meals.
and the
The Ninja
names of
Detect
nearly
Power Blender Pro
11
whips up the
million
smoothest
Earthlings.
smoothies and so much more.
On these
Blend Sense technology detects
fingernail-sized
and adjusts
chips,
blending
the
time,
names are
speed,
physically
and pulses
written,
for perfectly
not
smooth
stored
results.
electronically.
The
This was
Withings
done
Body
with the
Smart
help
Scale
of an
keeps me
electron
honest
beam,
with advanced
allowing
body
the writing of
composition.
very
I get a
tiny
comprehensive view of my
features,
body with
less
metrics like
than
body
1
fat,
micron.
water percentage,
The
and all the
engineering team at
masses,
NASA
muscle
spends
mass,
the next
bone
few
mass,
days
and lean
snapping
mass,
pictures
and
of
data
all
from
the
every way it
systems
appears
aboard the
automatically
rover,
via
checking for
Wi-Fi or
any
Bluetooth
damage
in the
caused during the descent. During the following days, the team will begin to stretch out all the movable components leading up to the rover's first drive. On February 20th, the first sounds are obtained from the Jezero crater using the microphone on board the rover. At this point, the rover's mast, which the microphone is attached to, is still stowed away, so the sounds are a little muffled. A little wind can be heard, but mainly we hear the high-pitched noise of the rover itself. This next recording has been filtered, allowing us to hear the Martian wind a little clearer. The Perseverance rover continues to take images of itself and its surroundings.
Have you been injured in a car accident recently? Imagine getting a huge check like this to cover your medical bills, replace your car, and cover lost wages, all without paying a single dime up front.
And when you click the link in the description, it'll take you to a site that looks just like this. The best part is, it will ask you just 4 simple questions.
Don't worry, these questions don't ask any personal or sensitive information. It's just about the accident.
It immediately uses artificial intelligence and compares the details of your accident to over 1 million other accidents.
Fast forward to 60 days and here I am. I was able to replace the income from my job, pay off all my bills, and I got a new car.
So if you have been injured in a recent car accident, click the link below, answer 4 simple questions, and see what your car accident is worth. It's quick, it's free, and there's no risk. So click the link now and see if you qualify for a huge check like I've got here.
Want to be your own boss? As a moving helper, you get to decide when you work and where you work, what moving services you offer. You even get to choose how much you charge. Unpack your potential when you sign up to start your own moving labor business at movinghelper.com.
rested on a rock. The team at NASA decides to zap a nearby rock with the laser and even capture audio of the rock being zapped. The rover's SuperCam instrument also takes a close look at the rock. The sounds of 30 impacts are heard, some slightly louder than others. Variations in the intensity of the zapping sounds can provide information on the physical structure of the target. On March 4th, the team wiggles one of Perseverance's wheels. This set of images shows the wiggling. There isn't really anything else the engineers can test before the all-important first drive. The first drive goes ahead on the same day. Lasting 33 minutes, it is a resounding success. The rover stops to take a look at its first tracks on Mars. Incredibly, the microphone on board also captured sounds from the drive. Many people, when viewing the images, don't presume that the wheels are actually metal. But with this recording, we can hear the bangs, pings, and rattles from metal wheels rolling over the rocks. Also present in the recording is a high-pitched, scratching noise, which the team has yet to explain. In a second version of the recording, the team at NASA isolates the noise of the wheels interacting with the ground. Now that the rover is mobile, the team switches their full attention towards finding a spot to deploy the helicopter. It's a complicated procedure which, once started, cannot be reversed. They have to be sure before beginning the process. On March 21st, the debris shield protecting the helicopter is dropped. Perseverance will drive away and leave it. A site is proposed for Ingenuity to be deployed, and an area named Van Zyl Overlook is where Perseverance will retreat to in order to watch the flights. The whole deployment process takes about 6 days, with controlled explosions destroying bolts that attach both explorers. As soon as Ingenuity is deployed, we want our big friend to drive away as fast as possible so the helicopter's solar panels can keep the battery charged. With Ingenuity successfully deployed, the helicopter's camera can be tested and captures this image. Meanwhile, Perseverance takes a quick selfie looking at its little partner. Perseverance will now retreat to Van Zyl Overlook. The team must now test the helicopter's blades. Perseverance watches the nerve-wracking test. Unfortunately, the spin test is concluded early, and NASA must delay the first flight in order to investigate the issue. To pass the time, Perseverance is evaluating whether nearby rocks at the Van Zyl Overlook formed during a volcanic eruption or from water depositing sediments. The rover also captures this zoomed-in image of Ingenuity's solar panels. Dust can be seen covering a portion of the panels, which could cause problems for the little helicopter. The mission planners draw up 2 potential routes. However, the end goal of reaching Neretva Vallis is one everybody desires for Perseverance. Even the visual look of that area supports the theory that it was once an ancient river. NASA now believes Ingenuity's problem is with its software and hurries to fix the issue. Perseverance now watches a second spin test, which Ingenuity passes with flying colors. On April 19, 2021, Ingenuity makes history by being the first vehicle to perform a controlled, powered flight on another world. This video taken by Perseverance shows Ingenuity hovering for almost 40 seconds. To honor the occasion, NASA has made a request for a small patch of fabric from the first plane ever to fly on Earth to be included on the helicopter. The piece of fabric from the Wright brothers' plane has now flown on Mars. NASA also renames the flight field to Wright Brothers Field. If the first flight wasn't enough on April 20th or Sol 60, Perseverance converts some of the Martian atmosphere to oxygen. A toaster-sized experimental instrument aboard the rover called MOXIE accomplished the task. In 1 hour of operation, enough oxygen is produced to keep an astronaut healthy for about 10 minutes of normal activity. This method of oxygen production will be crucial when humans visit Mars. This experiment is the first to prove the concept on another planet. The team at NASA wastes no time getting Ingenuity flying again, and on April 22nd, a second flight test is conducted. This time, the helicopter goes a little higher, 5 meters to be precise. This was also the first time the color camera on board Ingenuity was used, producing these images from the sky. The rover's tracks can be seen on the ground below. During Ingenuity's third flight on April 25th, the little helicopter zooms out of the shot. As confidence grows, the team is allowing Ingenuity greater freedom. This image captured from the sky shows our big friend, the Perseverance rover, watching in the top left corner. Meanwhile, Perseverance is busy looking at this hill nicknamed Santa Cruz. It's located about 1.5 miles or 2.5 kilometers away from the rover. The entire scene is inside of the Jezero crater. The crater's rim can be seen on the horizon beyond the hill. Incredibly, during the helicopter's fourth flight, Perseverance recorded the humming of the blades. The team at NASA put together this next short segment. Up until this point, Ingenuity has been instructed to land where it started. However, for its fifth flight, the team decides to let the helicopter land at another location, one they had spotted during the previous flights. In this video, we can even see a dust devil forming behind the helicopter. This could be caused by Ingenuity itself or simply happening independently at the time of the flight. This image, captured by the helicopter, shows its new landing ground, dubbed Flight Field B. Now that the flight technology has been fully demonstrated, Ingenuity will act as an aerial scout for Perseverance to help with the main mission of finding signs of ancient microbial life. From here on out, the rover will continue its journey on the vast Martian plains, with Ingenuity by its side. On May 10th, Perseverance uses its Watson instrument to take a close-up of a rock. The team is still trying to figure out if these rocks are basalt or if they were formed from the movement of water.
The rocks on Mars are important, but the survival of our two explorers is vital. In the next episode, the safety of both Perseverance and Ingenuity is threatened. You are watching Elder Fox TV. We would like to thank our patrons for making this possible. Join us as we uncover the mysteries of Mars.
In this episode, Ingenuity narrowly survives a routine flight, spots danger lurking ahead, and breaks its own records. Meanwhile, Perseverance travels to an area which could hold clues about ancient life, captures a huge dust storm, and encounters a mishap so grave it threatens to derail the main objective of the mission. In preparation for its main objective, gathering samples of the planet to later return to Earth, Perseverance practices its coordination. This series of images shows the first time the arm was docked with the rover's internal sampling mechanism. As the rover is now busy with mission objectives, it no longer has the time to record flights of its partner, Ingenuity. However, not recording the sixth flight would become a missed opportunity for a valuable look into how the helicopter's safety systems perform. As this video of the sixth flight shows, taken by the helicopter itself, we can see that Ingenuity is wildly tilting back and forth. After some investigation, the flight team concludes this wild tilting was caused by an issue with the camera. There are two primary inputs for the helicopter's autonomous flying. One is a momentum sensor, and the other is an algorithm that relies on images from the camera. 500 images are fed into the algorithm every second, all with timestamps. The issue occurred because the camera failed to take just one image, meaning all the images taken afterward contained inaccurate timestamps. Luckily, the helicopter stability system has a built-in margin of safety, and so still powered through to a soft landing despite the issue. Despite the troubles, Ingenuity manages to capture this color image. Looking toward a site of interest the team has named Ktten, the Navajo word for among the sand. The team believes that the capture of the 13-megapixel color image could have contributed to the flight issue, and so will not order the helicopter to take any more until the issue is fully resolved. Meanwhile, Perseverance is busy looking at this rock, which has gained a rather unfortunate nickname. We won't repeat it, but think of a long-running joke related to the planet Uranus. On June 1st, Perseverance and Ingenuity celebrate 100 sols on Mars. Here are some images from the day, including the Martian midday sun. The rover team plans out a more detailed route for Perseverance, first heading south to a site of interest called Ktten, before retracing back north, skipping around the edge of two craters and heading to the most alluring site, nicknamed the Three Forks. This area is where an ancient river spilled into an ancient lake. With such a long drive ahead, NASA releases more information about how the rover navigates autonomously. This video shows what the rover sees when navigating. Small parts of the terrain reveal themselves as they move into range. On June 8th, Ingenuity prepares for its seventh flight. With the camera issue from the previous flight still freshly in mind, it's a nerve-wracking moment. Fortunately, the issue doesn't occur this time, and the helicopter performs a clean flight. The rover stops to take a quick look at this rock, which some scientists believe has similarities to volcanic rock back here on Earth. However, volcanic rocks are not what the rover is here for, so Perseverance carefully moves on, searching for sedimentary rocks. Another sol on Mars and another plume of dust is spotted. However, what the rover captures next is truly incredible. A vast cloud of dust sweeps across the landscape. This animation is made from just 3 images taken over a time period of 29 seconds. So in reality, the dust is moving much slower. To be precise, this animation is around 19 times normal speed. Here's a slightly smoother view at 5 times the real speed. On Sol 120, Ingenuity takes to the skies yet again. To follow along with the rover, the helicopter must now keep making regular flights, traversing the landscape. The rover will now need to go into autonav mode to speed up the drive to Ktten. The team decides to test the new autonav software, sending the rover in a direction where they have spotted an obstacle. This series of images shows how the rover navigates itself through the obstacle successfully. The rover arrives at the site labeled Ktten. Perseverance turns its camera around to see the long tracks it has left behind. On Sol 133, Ingenuity prepares for its 9th flight. The helicopter team applies an update to the autonomous flight software to solve the issues seen in Flight 6, and the helicopter can now take color images once again. Ingenuity flies for 2 minutes and 26 seconds, the longest flight yet. It flies across the whole Sayata area and takes lots of color images. The features in this image taken during the 9th flight have been named raised ridges, and scientists desperately want to explore this portion of Sayata with the rover. They belong to a fracture system, which often serve as pathways for fluid to flow underground. In this image from Ingenuity, the rover driver spots something terrifying: sand dunes. If they were to drive slightly downhill into one of these dunes, the rover could become stuck, trapped on the surface of Mars with no one around to help. In this image, bedrock can be seen toward the bottom, slightly exposed among the dunes. This area is also too risky for the rover to visit. Thanks to Ingenuity, however, we can at least see this area in some detail. After a little more driving, the rover looks toward a site which has been given the most fitting nickname yet. This area, known as Cratered Floor Fractured Rough, is where the rover will attempt to take its first sample. The rover reaches out to touch the rocks nearby. These rocks are of the same type of which it will take its sample. This is the exact spot where the rover will hunt for a suitable sample. Meanwhile, Ingenuity performs its 10th flight. It captures another view of the Raised Ridges site. Perseverance reaches the target site for its first sample. This will be the rover's office on Mars for a few weeks. The sample caching system must undergo some testing before use. Ingenuity flies again, this time capturing the Perseverance rover from 39 feet in the air. Can you spot it? The rover is hard at work in its office, making sure to get the first sampling attempt right. First, its arm scours the rock it will attempt to sample. This is to check what's underneath the surface to ensure that the drill is not damaged. On August 6th, the rover successfully drills into the surface. The sample will be passed to the internal unit for inspection. Although the drilling went well, there appears to be no sample in the tube. The rover team investigates the issue. Perseverance zaps the sample spot to determine what caused this rock to vanish. On August the 11th, the team at NASA determines that the rock was too crumbly and therefore broke into fine dust, rather than producing an intact core. Luckily, the rover has more than 40 attempts remaining.
Although we didn't know it at the time, Perseverance faces a long battle ahead with crumbly rocks, where each setback poses a challenge to its historic mission. The quest for discovery is paved with obstacles, but it's within these very struggles that the rover's true perseverance shines brightest. You are watching Elder Fox TV.
In this episode, Perseverance watches something in the sky, struggles to see a rock sample, and drives at full speed before losing contact with Earth for 2 weeks. It's Sol 173, and Perseverance takes a time-lapse video to search for clouds in the atmosphere. However, the rover spots something else, and it's not our little helicopter. This glimmering light in the sky is actually Deimos, one of the 2 Martian moons. Meanwhile, Ingenuity does take to the sky for its 12th flight and snaps some color images of the area below, revealing some more interesting but also hazardous terrain for the rover above South Sayata. With the failed sample attempt still fresh in mind, the rover is ordered to try again.
Each rock. Knowing the time required to clear each
The
field,
target,
TerraClear
this
solution
interesting
allows you to
rock
optimize your
outcrop,
time
known
and
as Citadel.
resources.
One rock in particular,
Or if you don't have the labor,
nicknamed Rochette,
don't have the time,
is chosen as
the
the
TerraClear
target.
provider will pick for you. From small rocks to big rocks,
Perseverance
TerraClear
drives
takes
to
care
take
of
a
it all.
closer look. The rover will first abrade the rock to check its suitability. After using its arm to abrade the
That's
rock,
the freedom that
Perseverance
TerraClear
takes
promises.
a step back to examine
It's
its
freedom
work.
from rocks, it's freedom to farm.
The patch is about 2 inches or 5 centimeters in diameter. The rock appears to be suitable for drilling, so the team orders the rover to go ahead. The drilling goes smoothly, and the sample is immediately photographed inside the sample tube. However, after a planned shaking operation to remove any dust from the lip of the tube, the sample seems to have disappeared. The team is desperately trying to get another visual on the sample, but poor lighting conditions prohibit them from doing so. With the failed sample attempt still in mind, the team decides to wait for better lighting conditions and confirmation that the sample is intact before sealing it for deposit on the Martian surface. Finally, on Sol 193, the core sample is photographed once again. History has been made, and one of the main objectives of the rover's mission has been completed. Also on Sol 193, or September 4th, the rover captures its most detailed view of Ingenuity flying so far. A plume of dust can be seen on takeoff. As the helicopter's navigation filter prefers flat terrain, the team programs a waypoint into the flight above flat ground, allowing a little breather for the helicopter. We can see Ingenuity pause and recalibrate before continuing. Meanwhile, the rover has now processed the sample collected and stored it in an airtight titanium capsule, ready to be stored on the Martian surface. To build on their success, the team orders the rover to collect another sample from the same rock, which also goes smoothly. Perseverance now has 2 successful samples ready to be dropped for later collection. Back on Earth, scientists are starting to piece together the history of the area. Data from the samples collected so far show that the region likely had a sustained presence of water. It's even theorized that the samples themselves could be home to tiny bubbles of ancient Martian water. To celebrate, the rover captures a selfie, looking down at the 2 drill holes on the target rock. It's now time for the rover to move on, with South Ceuta being the next destination. On Sol 200, Perseverance drives at full speed using its AutoNav software. This video shows the full day's drive. This video is sped up by a factor of 200, with the rover moving much slower in real time.
It's not a hobby. It's your empire. It's not DIY. It's do it yourself on Wix.
The top of the delta front has several visible scarps, thought to have been carved by running water. The rover will eventually visit this exciting area up close. As the season begins to change, Perseverance records a drop in atmospheric density. This could spell problems for Ingenuity. Flying on Mars is a precise balancing act of rapidly spinning the rotors to provide lift, conserving power, and operating within tested constraints. As the density drops, the blades will have to spin faster to provide the same lift. In order to get into the air, the blades will spin faster than ever tested on Earth. This is because Ingenuity has already outlasted its planned mission duration, but the team is confident that the helicopter will be able to continue, even if that means using a little more energy. Perseverance finds an interesting rock outcrop in the South Ceuta area, nicknamed Bastide. The thin layers of Bastide suggest this rock may be sedimentary and was deposited over time by water. Although the rock is interesting, Perseverance must quickly find a parking space for the next couple of weeks. Mars will soon be directly behind the Sun, and communication with the rover could be scrambled by the Sun's energized particles. This will last for approximately 2 weeks. During the solar conjunction, NASA's Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter passes above to check on the rover, which can be seen as a tiny dot in this image. While NASA can't communicate with the rover, they have pre-programmed some activities to keep Perseverance occupied. The rover is ordered to take a panorama, something that the team can trust it to do alone with no danger to the mission. However, all driving and arm operations are suspended. Back on Earth, a breakthrough is made based on the images Perseverance has collected so far. Remember this image taken in the first episode? This image of the Delta nicknamed Kodiak led to a paper being published in Science magazine, confirming that the rover is sitting on the floor of an ancient lake. Where the water previously flowed from the river system and hit the ancient lake, the speed of the water suddenly decreased, and any sediments carried were deposited to form these mighty deltas. This is now a scientific fact. With the solar conjunction coming to an end, the rover stays in its parking spot performing weather and chemistry experiments, while the engineers check to ensure that all the driving systems are ready to go once again. Ingenuity conducts a spin test to see if the blades will cope with the higher speeds required to get into the air. The test is passed and the helicopter lifts off for its 14th flight. Back on Earth, a twin model of Perseverance, nicknamed Optimism, is ready to help out where necessary. This twin rover could be used to test out risky maneuvers, diagnose any issues Perseverance is having, and even help to save the rover if it becomes stuck in a sand dune. This would be done by the team simulating the environment and testing the best way to free the rover if it did get stuck. On Sol 257, or November 9th, Perseverance captures its first Martian sunset. Martian sunsets have been seen before by other rovers, but it's always a stunning sight. The team identifies an interesting rock nearby and sends the rover to investigate. The rock is abraded and found to be suitable for yet another core sample. The drilling is a success, and the sample is stored on board the rover. Perseverance now has 3 samples for return to Earth.
You're tuned into the captivating world of Elderfox TV, where the remarkable journey of perseverance and ingenuity continues to unfold on the Martian frontier, 9 months and counting. A heartfelt salute to our patrons, whose unwavering support turns the wheels of exploration and discovery. Embark with us, join our community, and delve deeper into the extraordinary saga of Perseverance.
In this episode, Perseverance chokes on a rock sample, takes stunning images of Jezero Crater, and creates what looks like a face on a Martian rock. It's Sol 265, and the rover has just taken 2 rock samples from this area, which is known as Brax. The layering of the rocks in this area points towards volcanic activity influenced by running water. Perseverance stops to capture the breathtaking sights of Jezero Crater, producing one of its most detailed panoramas yet. It's sometimes easy to forget that we are looking at the surface of another planet far, far away. Mars is so far away that if you were traveling 100 miles per hour or 161 kilometers per hour, it would take you around 39 years to reach the planet, and that's when Mars is closest to Earth in its orbit. At the orbital maximum, it would take 284 years. On Sol 279, Perseverance spots something on the Martian surface. It's our little friend, Ingenuity. It sits on its 10th airfield at an incline of about 6 degrees, after having just completed its 16th flight. The helicopter is starting to make its way back to the original landing site before venturing beyond. This map shows the proposed route for both helicopter and rover. The white line depicts the rover's journey so far, and the blue line represents NASA's future ambition. The rover will begin to retrace its tracks around the dangerous Ceuta area before making fast progress towards the river delta. In this close-up aerial view, we can see the large sand dunes in the Ceuta area which prohibit the rover from taking a shortcut. On its way back around Ceuta, the rover stumbles across an interesting rock nicknamed Isole, and the team orders Perseverance to abrade and take samples. The first drill sample goes smoothly, and the rock is one of the oldest the rover has come across so far. Another sample is taken. The resulting holes in the rock make a pattern resembling a face. However, the rover reports an anomaly, stops all operations, and calls NASA for help.
Rock. Knowing the time required to clear each field,
engineers at NASA find the cause of the anomaly, chunks of rock obstructing the rover's bit carousel. It's not clear how much rock is left in the sample tube, so the team decides to return it to the Martian surface.
Takes care of it all.
This series of images shows the drill pointed 6 degrees below horizontal and ejecting the leftover rocks.
That's the freedom that TerraClear promises. It's freedom from rocks.
These before and after images show the ground below where the drill ejected its contents. Can you spot the difference? Now the team must work to dislodge the debris in the bit carousel. The rover performs a spin test and most of the debris is removed. However, 2 small pieces of rock remain, lodged inside the mechanism. After extensive testing on Earth with Perseverance's twin Optimism, the rocks are found to pose no danger in this position. Wanting to be thorough, the team at NASA orders the rover to drive a short 5 meters and up onto a rock. The angle of the rover is favorable for the lodged pebbles to vacate the mechanism, and the team confirms the debris has been removed. Perseverance is now as good as ever. The rover is ordered to take yet another sample of Isol, which goes smoothly. The emptied sample tube is reused. Meanwhile, Ingenuity becomes the first ever aircraft to become grounded on another planet due to bad weather. This image, taken by the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter, shows a regional dust storm shrouding the rover and helicopter, depicted by the white circle. Perseverance now begins the long journey back around Ceuta and breaks a record for the longest drive on Mars in a single sol. This image shows the long wheel tracks left by the rover. The dust storm has subsided and Ingenuity takes to the skies for its 19th flight, a short hop on the road back to the original landing site. The rover and helicopter celebrate their 1-year anniversary on Mars, a major milestone for the mission.
As the mission eclipses its first year on the alien landscapes of Mars, the thrill of discovery accelerates. Ingenuity, our intrepid helicopter, stumbles upon remnants of the past, a trail of wreckage left in the wake of our landing. These artifacts, silent witnesses to our arrival, open new chapters in our quest, promising untold stories and secrets waiting to be unearthed.
In this episode, the Ingenuity helicopter finds eerie spacecraft wreckage, then loses contact with the rover. Meanwhile, Perseverance spots a bright object and finally reaches the towering Delta face. It's Sol 359, and Perseverance finds itself surrounded by rocks. The rover turns around and looks the other way, drawing the same conclusion: more rocks. Upon closer inspection, some of the rocks turn out to be quite interesting. In this one, a large crack can be seen. And look at the layering beneath this rock. It's almost like something you'd see from a stream back here on Earth. On Sol 362, a hitchhiker is spotted inside one of the rover's wheels. This rock likely got caught in the wheel during a cross-slope drive, where the rover moves diagonally across a slope. It poses no threat to the mission and should eventually fall out on its own. The rover is now gearing up for its longest and fastest drive so far. Meanwhile, the Ingenuity helicopter takes to the sky for its 20th flight, scouting ahead for the rover and taking some color pictures of the terrain. The ground beyond the rocks looks relatively safe. On Sol 368, the team orders the rover to focus its camera on its own body to see the level of dust accumulation. These images show what 1 year on the Martian surface can do to a rover. Before departing on the long drive to the Delta front, Perseverance takes a drill sample of a rock named Sid. The team uses an algorithm called ProDapt to control the amount of force and percussion. The algorithm ranges from level 0 to level 20, with the level increasing or decreasing depending upon the progress getting through the rock. Sid required the most force of any rock drilled so far. Perseverance now enters the rapid traverse phase, aiming to quickly reach the Delta for its next science campaign. This map shows the route to the Delta. The rover will go up around Sayata and on to a location named the Three Forts. The rover's advanced self-driving technology allows it to think while driving, processing images on the move and navigating based on those images. After a little driving, the rover takes a quick look at the start of the Delta. A small crater can be seen in the foreground. The main portion of the Delta is located off-screen on the right. Perseverance is now driving faster than any previous rover and has broken records for the distance traveled in one day. It's making rapid progress on very smooth terrain and has now covered a total of 4.1 miles or 6.6 kilometers in total, driving about 1 mile per week. As Perseverance nears the Delta, excitement grows here on Earth. If Mars had life in the past, it's very possible that we could see fossilized remains in the layers which make up the Delta.
Knowing the time required to clear each field,
As the rover moves
TerraClear
closer,
solution
the
allows you to
towering
optimize
Delta
your time
unveils
and
its true
resources.
scale. Climbing
Or if you
directly
don't
up
have
the
the
Delta
labor,
could spell
don't have the
disaster
time,
for
the
Perseverance.
TerraClear provider will pick for you. From small
The
rocks
rover
to
makes
big
a brief
rocks,
stop to
TerraClear
observe
takes
a
care of
Martian
it all.
solar eclipse. The moon seen here is Phobos, the largest of the 2 Martian moons. This video is the highest definition
That's the
observation
freedom
of
that
a Martian
TerraClear
solar
promises.
eclipse ever taken.
It's freedom from
the
rocks,
eclipse itself
it's
lasted a
freedom to
little
farm.
over 40 seconds in real time. Scientists can use these observations to measure subtle shifts in the moon's orbit over time, which can reveal information about the composition of the Martian crust and mantle. On Sol 401, the team at NASA spots something in one of the images sent back. It appears to be a part of the parachute that helped the rover to land safely. You can clearly see the red and white colored bands. On Sol 402, Perseverance looks toward the eroded eastern edge of the Delta. A deposit of boulders at the edge of the Delta may have been moved there by high-energy floods in the ancient past. The rover captures a video of its driving during Sols 404 and 405, making good use of its auto-navigation. Perseverance drove approximately 1,700 feet, or just over half a kilometer, over both Sols. The video is sped up by a factor of 200. This image, taken on Sol 406, shows a striking portion of the Delta. The rover is expected to ascend to the top of the Delta via one of 2 channels, Cape Nutshack or Hawksbill Gap. The channels are located over here, so Perseverance still has some ground to cover. On Sol 409, the rover photographs a familiar target, a rock formation known as Kodiak that we previously saw from afar in the first year of exploration. This closer examination provides a good look at the layers making up this formation. Perseverance has now completed its rapid traverse mode and is now in the Delta Front campaign. Geologists will investigate the boundary between the rocks of the crater floor and those that make up the Delta. On Sol 411, the rover is looking out to an area close to the Delta named Hog Wallow Flats, and scientists spot something interesting in the distance. A bright shiny object can be seen tucked under a rock. For now, it's given the imaginative nickname Bright Material, and scientists hope to get closer to it as part of the planned route. The object is estimated to be about 30 centimeters long. Meanwhile, Ingenuity takes to the sky for its 26th flight and captures something truly remarkable. It's the parachute from the descent stage that we spotted earlier, along with the back shell. The helicopter captures 10 color images of the crash site from different angles. These images could help ensure safer landings for future rovers. For the helicopter's 27th flight, the Perseverance team asked if it could scout an area called Fortin Ridge. Ingenuity's survey will allow scientists to compare the Flight 27 images with data collected by Perseverance to better understand the history of the crater floor and the forces that were at play billions of years ago. However, after this flight, Ingenuity experienced a communication dropout with the Perseverance rover due to a low power state, probably triggered by a seasonal increase in dust and lower temperatures from the oncoming Martian winter. Ingenuity relies on its solar-charged batteries, and the increased dust in the air presents a significant challenge in charging the helicopter's batteries to a level that will allow important components to remain energized throughout the night. The team is commanding the rotorcraft to adjust how it handles its heaters to maintain a battery charge through the night. Adrian Brown, Deputy Program Scientist at NASA, imagined what Perseverance might be feeling after losing contact with the helicopter. He wrote this letter from Perseverance to Ingenuity. I have missed you, little one. We once were the best of friends, better partners than Batman and Robin, two metallic creatures of Earth, sent to this red wasteland by those tool-bearing monkeys. I protected you in my mechanical belly for more than 7 months. I worry that I've seen the last of you. And then, who will I share selfies with? Since we were built back in California and our fateful mission commenced, we knew we would have to part ways. But I was hoping for more fanfare, at least a parting handshake. I well remember that fateful day when you missed the comms check. With the lowering of the sun, your battery couldn't see you through the Martian day safely. So we had to park you in a sun-drenched spot and hope you'd come back to me as winter comes to an end. Luckily, just 2 sols later, on Sol 429, Ingenuity reestablishes communication. Although it seems like the letter did the trick, it was probably a case of less dust and more sunlight, allowing Ingenuity's solar panels to gather more energy. Perseverance looks up towards the impassable Delta face, taking this panorama on Sol 437. Climbing the Delta will be tricky, and the team decides the best place to try is Hawksbill Gap, located here. On Sol 439, Perseverance begins its ascent of Hawksbill Gap. This is the most challenging terrain the rover has crossed so far.
You're tuned into Elder Fox TV, made possible by our patrons. Join us and see your name light up the list on the top left, updated daily. Thank you for powering our journey through Mars.
In this episode, Perseverance finds lots of strange objects on the Martian surface, tastes its first rock from the Delta, and seems to have collected what looks like a cat hair. The rover has made significant progress through Hawksbill Gap, covering nearly 400 meters or a quarter mile in a week. For the first time, the rover selected and analyzed 2 rock targets on its own, thanks to its
TerraClear
autonomous
delivers detailed
software.
maps showing the
Going
precise
forward, the
location
team
and
at
size
NASA plans
of
to
each rock.
utilize this
Knowing the
software
time
more
required to clear each field,
ensuring the rover doesn't
TerraClear
miss
solution
anything
allows you to
interesting
optimize your
along its
time
path.
and resources. Or if you
For
don't have
over
the
4
labor,
months,
don't have the
Perseverance
time,
has had an
the
unexpected
TerraClear
traveling
provider will
companion,
pick for you.
a rock that got
From
stuck
small
in its
rocks to
front
big
left
rocks,
wheel.
TerraClear
Covering
takes
more
care
than
of it all.
5.3 miles or 8.5 kilometers together, the rock has not caused any damage, but it appears it doesn't want to leave.
That's the freedom
While
that
previous
TerraClear
rovers
promises.
have also had rocks
It's
hitch a
freedom from
ride,
rocks,
Perseverance's
it's freedom to
companion
farm.
seems to be setting Mars' hitchhiking record. On Sol 451, the rover looks toward the peak of the Delta. The rocks in this area are of particular interest to scientists. Perseverance is desperate to use its drill. On Sol 452, the rover uses its rock abrasion tool to chip away at the surface level of a rock. The rover then uses its gaseous dust removal tool, essentially a compressed nitrogen can, which emits 4 short puffs to clear the cuttings and dust. After checking the tool for any damage, the team orders the rover to photograph the small hole. As the environment on Mars can change the surface layer of rocks over time, the rock abrasion tool is essential for helping geologists get a clear picture of what's hiding beneath the surface. You can see the wall of dust surrounding the target, thanks to the dust removal tool, while the fine-grained texture and pinkish color suggest the presence of hematite. The rock sank slightly upon abrasion, meaning it's not suitable for drilling. This is very unfortunate, as fine-grained material at the delta is one of the best chances of finding preserved microbial life. Meanwhile, scientists on Earth pore over mission data all the way back from Sol 148 and create this stunning animation. This was one of the windiest days the rover had encountered. It captured hundreds of dust devils. The scientists estimate that the rover comes into direct contact with 4 dust devils every single day, mainly around the Martian noontime. This is great news for our little helicopter friend, as it means the winds can potentially remove build-up dust from its solar panels, preventing future low-power scares. The helicopter celebrates with its 29th flight. Ingenuity is currently trying to catch up with Perseverance. This map shows the delta, as well as a few notable locations. The plan is for both machines to head up a smooth channel to reach the top of the delta. Perseverance is currently in a very promising location. At the delta front, the rover is getting up close and personal, capturing some extraordinary images. This is by far the most exciting place Perseverance has investigated. The rocks here look very alien, almost like what you'd expect from another planet. We've been documenting the Mars rovers for many years, and we haven't seen rocks like these before. Look at the holes in this rock. Is it a product of the Martian wind eroding them over time? Or was water involved in the process? We won't know for certain until we get these samples back to Earth. On Sol 466, the rover captures something spectacular. It's a rock that looks like a snake's head. While the internet speculates on whether this was created by a lost society of Martian snakes, it's not the most interesting thing in the image. Look at this rock. It appears to be balancing on top of a larger rock. If it is, it's unlikely it was transported there by the Martian wind. Could water have been involved in the process? Or is it something else entirely? A well-aimed meteorite, for example. Or perhaps it was placed there by the Martian snake people. In reality, it's hard to tell if this is a rock balancing or just an extrusion of the rock itself, sticking up behind the main rock. As excitement grows around taking samples from the delta, the team at NASA turns their attention to the bright material that Perseverance spotted back on Sol 411. This view from Sol 464 shows what appears to be a reflective piece of foil. This is likely a piece of debris left over from the landing, but there's a problem. The team confirms it's a piece of multi-layer insulation, likely from the sky crane which flew away from Perseverance's landing site after touchdown. However, the sky crane crash landed 2 kilometers or 1.2 miles to the southeast of this location. It's possible that the crash ejected some material into the sky, which then settled in this location. This image from Sol 0 shows the smoke plume that was generated as a result of the impact. Such forces could have theoretically ejected the material high up into the air where it was caught by the wind. However, NASA believes the material was likely just caught in the Martian wind after settling near the crash site. These 2 images, although taken from slightly different angles, show that the piece of debris is moving as a result of the wind. On Sol 472, the rover abrades another rock in preparation for its drill, again on fine-grained material. Unfortunately, the rock cracked and was pushed down into the surface, making it unsuitable for a drill attempt. While the team decides on which rocks to attempt next, Perseverance is ordered to take a highly detailed panorama. This panorama contains 2.5 billion pixels and now holds the record for the most detailed image taken on the surface of Mars, beating the Curiosity rover's record of 1.8 billion pixels. It highlights the delta front, from which the team hopes to collect core samples. On Sol 474, the team spots something in one of the images. They order Perseverance to go and have a closer look. The object's location is also moving, probably a result of the wind. It appears to be a string-like object, possibly yet another piece of spacecraft debris. Upon closer inspection, it's determined that the object is in fact spacecraft debris and is a piece of Dacron netting based on the observed 2 by 2 millimeter mesh pattern. It seems that this area is a natural resting point for wind-blown debris. The team at NASA isn't worried that all this debris could pose a threat to the integrity of the samples or endanger the rover in any way. But these debris findings prompt them to think about the impact of future landings to better contain the debris field. On Sol 477, the rover comes across a rock which is nicknamed Betty's Rock. This rock would provide an incredible core sample, with the layers telling the story of the area's ancient past. Unfortunately, however, the jagged layers and awkward shape means the rover can't maneuver its arms safely near the rock. Perseverance takes lots of close-up images, but will have to keep persevering to get its first core sample from the Delta. A few sols later, the team identifies a suitable area for the use of the rover's drill. This rock, named Skinner's Ridge, allows Perseverance to get to its first core sample from the Delta, something that will be of incredible value when the sample return mission brings it back to Earth. The core measures 6.7 centimeters or 2.6 inches long, making it the mission's longest core so far. The rock was softer than others previously cored, requiring only low levels of percussion, but wasn't as fine-grained as the earlier Delta rocks that were abraded and then found unsuitable for drilling. After a successful coring campaign, a routine check on the rover's drill shows something odd. Images reveal 2 small pieces of debris, one on the coring bit in the bit carousel, and a hair-like object on the drill chuck. The team at NASA investigates the issue, taking multiple images from multiple angles. After moving the drill and testing that everything still works, they are confident to proceed with the mission. It's likely the hair-like object is a small piece of debris from the crash landing, as we've seen so much of it in this area. Luckily, it poses no threat for now. On Sol 518, the rover sits at a location known as Wildcat Ridge and is gearing up to collect another core sample. Skinner Ridge, the site of the rover's first sample from the Delta, can also be seen from here. The team at NASA now wants the rover to head to a location called Enchanted Lake.
Venture with us to the Enchanted Lake, a region on Mars that stands out as one of the rover's most fascinating discoveries yet, aptly named by NASA for its allure. Welcome to Elder Fox TV. This is a 24-hour live stream that you can tune into anytime and watch your favorite videos with others. We love to read your comments.
In this episode, Perseverance smashes rocks on the surface, reaches the Enchanted Lake area, and discovers several strange rocks. It's Sol 532, and the rover has driven back to an interesting place on the Delta front to get another shot of this amazing formation. You can clearly see tunnel-like holes going through the rocks. Perseverance has been exploring the Delta front, excitedly going back and forth between the different areas of interest. The rover is heading towards an area known as the Enchanted Lake. The team at NASA has employed the strategy of looking at rocks, then quickly moving on to gain a greater context of what happened in Jezero Crater. This view from Sol 538 shows long wheel tracks, with the Kodiak Butte in the distance. The rover is covering a lot of ground up and down the Delta front. On Sol 543, the team at NASA orders the rover to churn up the Martian surface. Perseverance gets busy making Zen art on the sand. You can see that the sand is composed of both larger and finer particles. The rover trains its laser on some freshly exposed sand. The data here will help the team determine what makes up the sand near the Delta. Perseverance is also looking for frost on the undisturbed sand. Frost can form on Mars when the ground temperature gets below the point where water vapor in the air can turn directly into ice. The small holes seen in this image are where the rover trained its laser. It seems it's still a little too warm for frost. Meanwhile, our helicopter friend takes to the sky for flight number 31. Ingenuity is slowly catching up to the rover, wanting to help with scouting ahead. You can see the delta is starting to come into focus. Back on the ground, Perseverance finally reaches the Enchanted Lake area. The rocks here look very sharp and brittle. The rover really wants to drill here. On Sol 558, Perseverance attempts to abrade a promising rock. Unfortunately, the rock is smashed beyond all recognition. The delta is proving incredibly hard to sample, but the rover must keep trying. The team checks that the rock abrasion tool is not damaged and proceeds with their search for a good rock sample. There are so many interesting targets in the area. Look at this pile of thin, flaky rocks. How did it get here? The rover investigates an interesting outcrop that seems to be made up of small, irregular blocks. This is the view from the camera on the end of its arm. Interesting patterns are observed. Is it possible that water flowed over the surface of this rock,
detailed
bringing
maps
minerals
showing
that were
precise
compressed by
location and
something
size
that was
of
previously
each rock?
laid on top?
Knowing the time required to clear each field,
The
TerraClear
area is
solution
too
allows you to
exciting,
optimize
and
your time and
Perseverance gears
resources.
itself up to try and get a
Or
core
if you
sample.
don't have the labor,
First, it will need
don't have
to
the
abrade
time,
the rock.
the TerraClear provider will pick for you.
The rover proceeds
From small
carefully
rocks
and
to big
records
ones,
the operation.
TerraClear takes care
You
of
can
it
see
all.
that the rock does sink slightly, but not enough to be of concern. The operation took around 10 minutes in real time.
That's the freedom that TerraClear promises.
Fortunately, the rock withstood the
freedom from
abrasion
rocks,
and turns
it's
out to
freedom
be
to
quite a
farm.
hard piece of rock. You can see in this image that the rock abrasion tool has left some markings on the patch. Excitingly, this means it's time for the rover to get its drill out. This series of images shows the drilling operation. Again, the rock sank slightly, but not enough to cause any problems. In the video, you can see a small chip of rock settle into the abrasion patch. This image shows the flake of rock in the patch. The material in this area seems to be very brittle. The rock has cracked, but the sample is retrieved successfully. There is, however, one small problem. The sample will not seal properly. The issue may be due to Martian dust interfering with the sealing process. Perseverance captures a time-lapse of images over 4 sols showing small dust grains moving around the sample tube's rim. While the team works on a fix, the rover must press on. Perseverance finishes up activities at Enchanted Lake and is on the move once again. The team wants it to analyze the Martian sand along the way. Its own wheel tracks provide a great look at what sits just beneath the surface. The rover must also gather data from undisturbed areas to compare. You can see the laser shots in this image. On Sol 606, Perseverance finds itself surrounded by rocks. These rocks appear to be similar to those formed by volcanic activity. Look at this rock. It has what appears to be scratch marks. If you look closely, you can see that this scratch pattern persists throughout the rock and is present on other rocks in the area, so it's likely natural, but it does make for a cool photo. This boulder appears to be broken in half. Did it fall from the top of the delta, or was it transported by water? Or perhaps was it brought here by a volcanic eruption in the ancient past? If you look closely here, this may well be the other half of the boulder. Maybe it rolled down the delta front quite recently. There are clearly 2 different rock types present here, the darker volcanic rocks and the lighter, sharper bedrock material. On Sol 608, the rover comes across a strange rock that has a line of extruded material attached to the surface. Upon closer inspection, it seems that this is a line of small nodules. Nodules like these suggest the presence of water in the ancient past. As for the 2 circular areas of lighter material, this remains unexplained. The team at NASA orders the rover to abrade a nearby rock to get a better feel of what happened here. This sequence shows the abrasion. Thankfully, the rock doesn't budge. The patch reveals a network of thin white veins. It looks like minerals were transported into the area by water. It's also possible that the veins contain fluid inclusions or trapped droplets of ancient water, but we'll need to get a sample back to Earth to look for that.
You are watching Elder Fox TV. Thank you to our patrons in the top left. Join today. The list is updated daily. Water, once abundant on the Martian surface, now eludes our searches, transforming Mars into a parched landscape. But could the rover, with its cutting-edge tools and relentless curiosity, rewrite what we know?
In this episode, Perseverance captures two objects passing the sun, drops all its sample tubes, and finally begins the journey to the ancient river channel. It's Sol 621, the second Earth year anniversary of the mission, and as fate would have it, another partial solar eclipse on Mars. The moon seen here is Phobos, the larger of the two Martian moons. On Mars, partial solar eclipses are a fascinating sight, as the small moons create a distinctive silhouette against the sun, quite different from the total solar eclipses we experience here on Earth. When compared to the eclipse captured back on Sol 397, you can see that the angle has changed significantly. The rover isn't given much time to celebrate the anniversary and is busy drilling a core sample from a site known as Hidden Harbor. The sample is retrieved without problem, sealed and stored in the rover's belly. On Sol 628, Phobos comes back around for another partial eclipse. If we compare it to the eclipse captured around one Martian week ago, we can see that the angle has changed slightly. This data will help scientists refine their models of the orbits of the Martian moons and possibly help with landing spacecraft there in the future. The rover turns its attention toward the ground. The team at NASA would like to obtain a sample of Martian sand. The rover has driven slightly into this sand dune, and the team thinks it would give valuable data. For the purpose of collecting sand, a special drill head was included on the rover. It pulls material up along the shaft, leading it to collect in the holes. Perseverance retrieves two samples from the ground, which now looks like a smiling face. Studying the Martian dust and sand, which is also known as regolith, will help engineers design equipment for future Mars missions and protect astronauts from potential health risks, such as the presence of toxic perchlorate. Meanwhile, Ingenuity takes off for flight number 35. It's the highest flight so far, with the helicopter reaching an altitude of 14 meters or about 46 feet. The color camera on board the helicopter is angled towards the delta and captures some great images. Another Sol on Mars and yet another partial eclipse. This time, it's the smaller of the two moons, Deimos. Partial eclipses are very common on Mars. However, the rover will never capture a total solar eclipse like we do here on Earth due to the size of the moons and their distance from the planet. The rover now has a very important task: to try and find a location suitable for depositing the samples it has collected so far, before continuing to go up and on top of the delta. The samples will be picked up and returned to Earth sometime in the 2030s by another NASA mission. Ingenuity is beginning to close in on Perseverance. However, the team at NASA wants the helicopter to scout a small dune field. The helicopter takes off for the 36th time and scouts the dune field before returning to its original position. It manages to capture some great color images of the dunes from above. Perseverance is driving to a site known as Three Forks to make the first sample cache on another planet. An image taken on Sol 650 shows that the pet rock still travels with us, seen here in the rover's left front wheel. On Sol 653, the rover makes history by dropping the first of the samples at Three Forks. The plan is to create a store of samples here in case the rover itself cannot deliver samples to a lander which will visit in the future. If anything happens to the rover, a future helicopter will retrieve these samples. After dropping the sample, the rover takes pictures of it to make sure it isn't in the path of its wheels. Also, the team needed to make sure the sample hadn't landed on its head, which would make it more difficult for future missions to retrieve. In testing done on Earth with the Perseverance twin Optimism, this happened about 5% of the time. In the event a sample does land on its head, the rover can simply push it over with its arm. With this initial success, the rover gets busy dropping the rest of the samples. You may have noticed that the rover always drills 2 core samples from the same area. It will drop only 1 of each sample in this area, keeping 1 of each on board in case it can deliver the samples directly to a future lander. While Perseverance is busy depositing samples, Ingenuity has been flying again, and now rests within the dune field that it scouted. In this image, the helicopter can be seen resting on a dune. The 2 explorers are now within sight of each other. Perseverance celebrates its success by taking a selfie. There are many samples lying on the floor. How many can you see? This image showcases the groundbreaking achievements made by the rover and provides a visual testament to the incredible progress made in space exploration. The rover deposits a total of 10 samples in the area. This was the primary mission objective, and it has been a resounding success. In this mosaic, all the tubes are visible. Now that this business is finished, the rover will head up on top of the delta through what appears to be an ancient river channel.
Rivers, now silent, once sculpted Mars's surface, hinting at a past teeming with movement and perhaps life. The quest to uncover whether life ever flourished on the red planet continues. You're watching Elder Fox TV, your round-the-clock gateway to the frontiers of space exploration.
In this episode, Ingenuity flies over the Delta and spots a Mars rover. Meanwhile, Perseverance climbs up the Delta face and explores an ancient Martian river. While Perseverance has been busy depositing samples for future collection, Ingenuity has been flying again, this time up and over the Delta. Technically, this flight sequence should have been in the last episode, but we didn't realize just how interesting it is. The helicopter takes off and flies up over the Delta before returning to rest in roughly the same position, but this time perched on a dune. Perseverance spotted the helicopter resting here in the last episode. The flight provides some great color images of the Delta face. Interestingly, because the color camera is pointing in the same general direction, we can put the images together to create a rough color sequence of flying over the Delta. Ingenuity takes off again on Sol 689. You can see the holes in the dune left by its feet. This time, Ingenuity comes to rest in the channel that Perseverance is planning to travel through, Hawksbill Gap. Perseverance is finishing up sample caching activities and spots a bright substance uncovered by the track of its wheel. In this image, we can also see our pet rock still safely carried in the rover's front left wheel. After collecting some up-close images, it's time for the rover to make its way up the delta. Ingenuity also makes its way up the delta, performing 4 more flights over a period of 9 sols. The 2 explorers are making good progress through the Hawksbill Gap. After Flight 46, Perseverance can once again see the helicopter. Ingenuity is approximately 490 feet or 150 meters away. On Sol 718, the rover looks toward a formation known as Pine Stand. It's very large, standing at 20 meters or 66 feet in some areas. Composed of stacked layers of sediment, it appears that it may have been formed by flowing water. However, there's a problem. By Earth standards, Pine Stand is exceptionally tall to have been created by a flowing river, as it would imply a very large and fast-flowing river, almost similar in scale to portions of the Mississippi. Then, on Sol 721, the rover comes across what is potentially the greatest discovery ever made on Mars. This site has been nicknamed Sprinkle Haven and had previously been studied from orbital images. These curved and banded rocks are further proof for a very deep and fast-flowing river. This river, which is theorized to have been much more powerful than any other discovered ancient water system on Mars, used to flow into Jezero Crater. This finding has changed the way we think about the scale of water systems on Mars in the ancient past. Where previously we have found evidence of small streams and even lakes, never have we found so much evidence pointing to something on par with the Mississippi. This is Sprinkle Haven from orbital images. The banded rocks are thought to be remnants of sandbars, which form as a result of a fast-flowing river losing speed as it widens into the delta. As the water slows, sediments are deposited to form these interesting structures. These structures are seen all over the delta. Mars really was a wet planet, just like Earth. The only remaining question is if this water ever harbored life. On Sol 724, the rover looks at the helicopter again. The team at NASA is planning a meetup between Perseverance and Ingenuity. On Sol 728, the rover drives 655 meters, or just under half a mile, a personal record for Perseverance, in order to get closer to the helicopter. The reason? So that we can view a flight once again. This video of Flight 47 shows a confident and fully functioning Ingenuity kicking up dust on takeoff. At times, it's hard to believe how far the technology has come. We have an autonomous helicopter flying on Mars. On Sol 738, Perseverance rises early to watch the sun come up and capture some Martian clouds. On Mars, dawn and dusk have a blue hue because of the way the atmosphere scatters light. It would be a strange experience for future human explorers, possibly reminding them of daytime on Earth. During its travels, Perseverance has picked up yet more hitchhikers, this time in the right front and right rear wheels. Our pet rock in the front left wheel, which has traveled with us for around a year now, is still here and well. The rover gets busy investigating a rock named Berea after abrading a patch. Rock samples from the top of the delta may be the best chance we have of finding ancient fossilized life, as they are rich in carbonate. This video shows the drilling operation. This is the 16th rock to be drilled and the first from the Delta Top campaign. The sample is retrieved successfully and stored for future delivery to the Mars Sample Return Mission. As the rover progresses up the delta, it turns to get a view of the crater floor. There are lots of boulders in the foreground. These boulders were likely carried by the river and could have come from many kilometers upstream. On Sol 756, Perseverance is looking west and spots a dust devil. Summertime is approaching in Jezero Crater. Therefore, we should start to see a lot more dust devils. After taking some color images on a milestone flight number 50, Ingenuity rests in a boulder-filled landscape. It's quite hard to spot. Can you see the helicopter? This is the best look at Ingenuity the team at NASA has had for a while. While the helicopter looks a little dusty, all the components seem to be intact and holding up well to the Martian environment. After taking a good look at its friend, Perseverance tries to drive over a rock before deciding it's too dangerous and backing up. With lots of soft sand around the rocks, something notable has happened. The rover's left front wheel has been flooded with lots of sand. This poses no danger to the rover, but it may pose a threat to our pet rock. On Sol 768, our worst fears are confirmed. Our Martian hitchhiker friend, which has sat in Perseverance's front left wheel for more than a year, has finally been ejected. This is notable because it holds the record for the longest time and longest distance hitchhiking on Mars. However, there are still plenty of contenders for the title in the other wheels. On Sol 772, the rover finally reaches Belva Crater and takes this stunning mosaic. The craters on Mars can help geologists get a cross-section into the surface. On Earth, geologists will sometimes visit places where a road is being built, as the construction team has sliced directly into the ground. Craters on Mars can provide a natural form of this opportunity. On the far side of the crater, we can see what looks like more banded rocks. These could be more ancient sandbars. As Perseverance looks out over the crater, Ingenuity takes to the skies for Flight 51 and spots something unnatural. It's the rover, looking out at the crater. It's great that this image was relayed back to the rover, but Ingenuity has been having some issues delivering images to the rover. Because the terrain here is hilly and full of rock features, the two explorers are rarely in line of sight of each other. This is causing problems for the signal between the two explorers. Therefore, as Ingenuity doesn't contact Earth directly and we get the helicopter images via Perseverance, we aren't getting details of the flights. The team at NASA must wait until the rover is in range of the helicopter before sending the next flight plan.
You're tuned into Elder Fox TV. A special thanks to our patrons listed in the top left. Your support is appreciated, and we update the list daily. Coming up, our daring little helicopter faces its first real test, executing an emergency landing. Stay with us for this unfolding drama on the Red Frontier.
In this video, a bright object is following the Perseverance rover. We may have found evidence of alien life in the form of lichen, and we are digging for actual Martian jewels. Meanwhile, Ingenuity performs an emergency landing and loses contact with NASA. The rover currently sits on the edge of the Belva crater and investigates sediments from ancient streams. Some of these sediments have proven to crumble very easily. The long-term plan for Perseverance is to explore Neretva Vallis, which looks like an ancient riverbed. Water spilled out into the delta from this river, filling much of the Jezero crater. Some of the boulders in this area are very strange. This one is cracked in half. It was likely brought here by fast-flowing water. This rock shows signs of weathering, making the shape of a face with two eyes and a mouth. Perseverance takes a closer look. It's possible some of these boulders came from tens of kilometers away. On Sol 802, the team at NASA orders the rover to take a drill sample. Perseverance records the operation, which takes about 20 minutes. You can see the rover's shadow moving with the sun. Something else to note here is a rock that Perseverance drove over, creating a fine imprint in the sand. Throughout the 20-minute operation, we can see the action of the wind moving small particles in sand. This camera provides a better view of the drilling itself. Perseverance looks at the drill site, and the team is desperately trying to get a visual of the sample in the sample tube. Unfortunately, the sample is not intact, and only about 1.3 centimeters was retrieved successfully. Perseverance tries again, this time on the abrasion spot. Similarly, the rock crumbles too easily. The rover looks out at the Belva crater before moving 20 meters to another intriguing site. Perseverance examines its new surroundings with the high-definition mosaic. Sedimentary layers can be seen poking out of the rock face. The rover drives a short distance to get another look at these layers. You can see the rover tracks in the foreground. The rocks here have proven too crumbly, but the team desperately wants to sample this type of rock. A site known as Emerald Lake is chosen for the next sample attempt. On Sol 821, the rover comes across some extraordinary rocks. They appear to have been carved out by some geological process. This one has the shape of a humanoid mouth. These strange formations are likely due to a process known as cavernous weathering. This smaller rock is an excellent example of cavernous weathering. It's the process of how caves form on Earth. On Earth, cavernous weathering often occurs by water action, where debris in the water is trapped in currents, carving out rocks over time. These rocks are further possible indications of past huge water flows in this area. The rover reaches Emerald Lake after a short drive. The layering here is precisely what the team at NASA wants to sample. Hopefully, this time, it's manageable. Perseverance records the drilling. The sample is pictured immediately and found to be intact. Finally, a success for the rover. The team names the sample tube Otis Peak. These fragile rocks are essential because they are known as conglomerates. Suppose we get these samples back to Earth. In that case, they can indicate when Mars lost its magnetic field, which is of utmost importance for life to evolve. Just as the rover finishes its science activities and photographs its surroundings, something strange happens. Communication with Earth is lost. The rover has entered safe mode 4 times since its landing, but usually resumes contact within 3 days. Worryingly, it takes a long 5 days before contact is reestablished. While the engineers at NASA try to determine what caused this communication dropout, the rover returns to work, capturing an image of its recent drill site. With this successful sample, Perseverance and the science team plan to drive to a location known as Snowdrift Peak. However, the rover sees something strange in the distance. This rock on the horizon appears to have a hole going through it. Perseverance uses its supercam to get a better view. This rock is likely another example of cavernous weathering. Perseverance begins to drive away from the Emerald Lake site onward to Snowdrift Peak. There is a hope among NASA team members that the rover can get back in touch with Ingenuity, which has been out of range for quite some time. On Sol 836, Perseverance comes across another example of cavernous weathering. This rock has been carved out exceptionally well. The rover reaches Snowdrift Peak after a short drive and takes a look around. In the distance, we can see the beauty of the sloping hills of the Jezero crater wall. There are many exciting rocks in this location, possibly yet more examples of cavernous weathering. Once we head further upriver, we may encounter a cave big enough for the rover to poke its camera in. Due to the amount of sharp and potentially dangerous rocks, the team at NASA asked Perseverance to record a bottom view during its next short drive. This sequence shows how good the autonomous driving software is, selecting a route with few obstacles, surrounded by a minefield of potential dangers. The drive takes about 16 minutes in real time. the rover looks out over the rugged landscape. From its current position and the expected position of Ingenuity, Perseverance should be able to contact the helicopter. But nothing breaks the silence. The rover can see no evidence of the helicopter. The team at NASA is feeling uneasy. What has happened to Ingenuity? The rover continues working at Snowdrift Peak, feeling lonely without a friend. On Sol 843, the rover captures something incredible, a bright object on the Martian surface. We've seen something like this before, way back on Sol 467. It's likely a piece of spacecraft debris called multi-layer insulation from the sky crane, which flew away and crashed after Perseverance touched down. But why does it seem to be following the rover? We established in a previous episode that this piece of debris is now moving with the wind. But could it have traveled merely 3 kilometers up over the delta? Or is this another piece altogether? The shape and size of both objects are similar, so even though it's unlikely, it may be the very same piece. If it's not the same piece, then it shows just how far the debris was ejected when the crash landing happened. On Sol 845, the rover captures this image of some of the boulders in the area, and the team at NASA makes an interesting observation. It's theorized that the boulders were deposited here by a more robust water system than the one that deposited the pebbles. Because the boulders sit on top of the smaller rocks and pebbles, the team believes this more powerful water system was much more recent than initially thought. Perseverance passes an exciting rock that the team at NASA names Dragon's Egg. The rover is instructed to gather up-close images known as proximity science. The team at NASA would like to sample this rock. Perseverance attempts to abrade the rock and takes a high-definition mosaic of its work. Unfortunately, the operation was unsuccessful and the rock was too hard. You can see the mark left on the rock. It looks like the tool slipped during the abrasion. The rover takes a break from its rock work and looks westward toward the towering crater rim. This is a stunning image because we can see the vast walls of the Jezero crater on each side of the ancient river system which carved its way through. For now, we can only dream of the images the rover will capture when it ventures into the ancient riverbed. Unless you're from the future, in which case, keep watching the episodes. The rover tries to perform an abrasion patch once again on the Dragon's Egg rock. It starts by using its gaseous dust removal tool. Now that the dust is clear, Perseverance gets some close-up images of the rock. Given the greenish hue, the rock looks to be rich in olivine minerals. The rover gets busy trying to use its abrasion tool once again. This time, the operation is recorded. After checking the tool for damage, the team asked Perseverance to photograph the patch. The operation went a little smoother this time, but the patch is still not as deep as usual. You can see the bright tailings from the abrasion, which have also littered the surface of Mars. While looking at the patch, the team spots something strange. It's a dark circular marking on the rock. The rover is instructed to take lots of images. Some people believe that these markings could be remnants of lichen. Here's an example of lichen on Earth. It's also noteworthy that in 2013, a study was published in the journal Planetary Space and Science showing that certain species of lichen could survive in simulated Martian environments. After gathering data, the rover focuses back on its abrasion patch. The team observes the patch under the rover's UV lights to better understand what makes up the rock. This rock is deemed too challenging for further drilling. On Sol 857, the rover comes across another similar rock, which will hopefully be softer. The surface of the rock shows some strange textures. Perseverance is ordered to use the rock abrasion tool. Again, the rock is hard, and the abrasion tool doesn't penetrate very deep. The rover takes some stunning images of the abrasion patch. While capturing pictures of the patch, the team again spots something interesting. It's another dark patch, very similar to the previous one. This has happened on Mars before. In 2005, the Spirit rover captured this image. It looks very similar to lichen here on Earth. However, it was a part of the rover scratching the rock when performing abrasion operations. Could something similar be happening here? If we look at both images, they are a similar distance from the abrasion patch and similar in size. Likely, these dark patches are simply a byproduct of the abrasion operation itself. They are probably minor scratches from the two finger-like stabilizers on the rover's arm. However, NASA is fascinated with them, and these small abrasions can provide more information about what's just under the surface of these rocks. The rover gets busy drilling. Unfortunately, yet again, the rock is too hard. After checking for any damage to the drill bit, the rover is ordered to move westward toward another outcrop named Dream Lake. Perseverance moves quickly, running over small rocks along its way. On Sol 870, Perseverance stops dead in its tracks. The rover has spotted something. It's the helicopter, but it shouldn't be in this area. Perseverance turns to get a better view. If the rover could speak, it might warn Ingenuity about the dangers of being run down by a Mars rover. Now that the two explorers are within range, Ingenuity tells the team at NASA what has happened. The helicopter is not where it should be because it had to perform an emergency landing. This was caused by dropped frames from its navigation camera, which has happened before, and the team thought they'd already fixed it. However, their software update only accounted for so many dropped frames. Due to the issue, Perseverance watches as Ingenuity performs a short up and down flight after the team at NASA applies another software update. The helicopter rises to an altitude of 16 feet or 5 meters before rotating left and touching back down. As Ingenuity lands, it bounces slightly, which is typical for a landing on this type of terrain. It also captures a color image from the sky and can even see its big rover friend tentatively watching. On Sol 874, the rover reaches Dream Lake and comes across a rock with a strange texture. It appears to have hundreds of small nodules. Perseverance examines the tiny landscape using its arm. The rock is littered with small pebbles and clumps of dust. Perseverance uses its gaseous dust removal tool, revealing a spectacular assortment of crystals. Given the greenish hue and the amount of olivine detected in the area by other NASA missions, these are likely olivine crystals. On Earth, a typical gemstone of olivine is worth around $50 to $500. However, it's safe to say that these Martian gems would fetch a far higher price. Excited by this finding, the rover gets busy abrading. The operation goes smoothly, as the rock is significantly softer than the previous two. The patch is photographed and shows what appears to be small veins of olivine-like minerals. Perseverance takes one last look at Ingenuity before they part ways once again. On Sol 881, the helicopter takes off for flight number 55. It's heading west over a small ridge, scouting the way for Perseverance. Ingenuity spots a strange formation and has a good look at it before deciding on a spot to land. It managed to snap a quick color image of the formation from above. Meanwhile, Perseverance is still studying the olivine-rich rock and has been ordered to take a sample. The rover records the drilling, which is a complete success. The sample is clearly seen inside the tube, and when returned to Earth, it may contain some Martian jewels. Happy with its work at Dream Lake, Perseverance now moves on, westward to the ancient riverbed.
Discovering olivine crystals on Mars has unveiled a glittering aspect of its landscape, showing us the planet's unseen allure. Yet, we're only at the start. What more is concealed beneath Mars's surface for the rover to find? This is Elder Fox TV. A big shout out to our patrons listed in the top left. Your names are updated every day.
In this video, Perseverance watches its friend Ingenuity, finds circular markings on the ground, and spots a sombrero on Mars. Perseverance is finishing up activities at the Dream Lake site. This area is rich in olivine crystals. Nearby, the rover spots something incredible. It's a rock that resembles a crab claw. On Sol 893, the rover is instructed to perform another abrasion on the ground. The operation is successful and the patch is photographed. Perseverance stops to admire its work and checks the tool for damage. As night falls, the rover continues to examine the abrasion patch. When lit with the rover's UV lighting, the patch shows more olivine crystals. Meanwhile, Ingenuity performs a short hop. Our little helicopter friend is getting closer to the ancient riverbed. The goal is to investigate this area. Due to the deep sand deposits, much of the riverbed will be impassable for Perseverance. The team will have to be extremely cautious when navigating around it. Luckily, the sand poses no danger to Ingenuity. The helicopter takes stunning color images from the air. The crater rim is visible in the distance. In this image, we can see the ancient river channel carving its way through the crater rim. Back on the ground, Perseverance spots a dust devil. The video is sped up by a factor of 20, and the dust devil is estimated to be around 200 feet or 60 meters wide. Ingenuity takes off again, gaining more ground toward Nerette Vivalis. The team at NASA is pushing the little helicopter to get to the ancient river channel as quickly as possible. Ingenuity captures a color image from the air. The crater rim can be seen in the distance. The rover is instructed to catch up with Ingenuity, but spots a strange rock. Perseverance can't help but stop and take a high-definition mosaic. However, the NASA team is eager for the rover to move on. Perseverance waves goodbye to the unnamed rock, which we can see on the right, and sets off on a long drive. On the way, the rover sends back some images of the accumulated dust over its 3-year journey. This level of dust accumulation is average and should pose no danger to the mission. Perseverance is driving over rugged terrain. Boulders surround the rover and its options are limited. In this image, we can see that the rover is driven straight over a rock. Some of these rocks are highly unusual. The official name for this one is Middle Mountain. However, due to its resemblance to the classic hat, it gained the nickname Sombrero Rock. This rock captivates the scientific team here on Earth, as it could be an example of case hardening on Mars. Case hardening is when the outer layer of a rock gets harder than the inside because of reactions to things like water or chemicals. Then, when the rock starts to wear away, it wears away more from the softer inside, leaving behind fantastic shapes on the outside. The rover has passed a critical threshold. It has successfully left the perilous boulder field and is now entering a region known as the Mandu Wall. This is the closest the rover has ever been to the crater rim, and Perseverance has now successfully traversed over 20 kilometers or nearly 12.5 miles. In this new region, the rover immediately begins to see new types of rocks. This one appears to form a perfect circle. The NASA team is still determining what could have caused this. While the rover investigates, Ingenuity takes off for flight number 58. During the flight, which lasts just under 2 minutes, Ingenuity takes an incredible color image, again showing Neretva Vallis, the ancient river channel. With each flight, the helicopter is getting closer. Back on the ground, Perseverance takes a high-quality mosaic of a rock near the circular features. The rock contains hundreds of small nodules, similar to the type of rock we saw back on Sol 874 at Dream Lake, which contained olivine crystals. The rover takes a full-circle panorama so we can see this area more clearly. In the distance, we can see the Neretva Vallis channel. The curved nature of the rocks in this area is of great interest to the team back at NASA. They ordered Perseverance to take a high-definition mosaic. What could have caused the circular features in this area? Is it possible that these angular rocks are evidence of microbial life? Perseverance is eager to investigate, but it has another job to do right now. Ahead of flight number 59, Perseverance spots its friend. Now that Perseverance has a good line of sight, the team at NASA orders the rover to capture a video of Ingenuity's next flight. The helicopter gets right to it. It's a hover flight, and the team is interested in pushing Ingenuity's boundaries. They have pre-instructed it to fly to a new record height of 20 meters or 66 feet. Our little helicopter friend flies up in stages, gaining height and then taking a second to rest. The flight is a resounding success, and Perseverance is eager to return to its investigation of the circular rocks. First, however, the NASA team wants the rover to take a sample from the rock with many tiny nodules. Perseverance uses its rock abrasion tool and then takes some pictures of the patch. While the NASA team examines the images, Perseverance creates a high-definition panorama of the Mandu Wall region. We can see the Neretva Vallis channel and even our little helicopter friend. Can you spot it? Perseverance looks back at the recently abraded rock and is ordered to take a drill sample. Perseverance immediately gets to work. The whole process takes about 23 minutes in real time. The drilling is a success. The rover captures an image of the rock sample. Ingenuity takes off yet again. It's really moving now. The flight lasts over 2 minutes, and the helicopter takes more color images. Here, we can see the banks of what used to be the Neretva Vallis River channel. Meanwhile, Perseverance is once again studying the rock with the circular marking. The team at NASA determines that the rock is geologic in origin and shows no sign of past microbial life. Spheroidal weathering is the most likely explanation. However, the rock is undoubtedly fascinating, having an almost perfect circle carved into it. Rocks such as these can trigger our imaginations and are a part of what we are here to find on Mars. Perseverance looks toward a small hill. In the middle ground, we can see a rock showing signs of stratification. This may have been caused by water or the wind depositing minerals and creating this layered structure. NASA orders Ingenuity to perform another hover flight. The team is gathering valuable data and pushing boundaries again. This time, Ingenuity flies to a new record height of 24 meters or 79 feet. Nearby the rover is another exciting rock. Perseverance takes a high-definition image. Once again, the rock contains hundreds of small nodules, which seem to be a common occurrence in this area. The rover further examines the surface of the rock using its Watson camera. The camera provides a better view of this miniature landscape. Perseverance is now ready to take a drill sample. First, the rover abrades the rock. The operation is successful and reveals an exciting patch. The patch contains what looks like hydrated silica. This is interesting because it holds the greatest potential for finding biosignatures. As usual, the rover checks the abrasion tool for any damage. The tool has now performed over 22 abrasions in its nearly 3-year life on Mars. Perseverance takes a high-definition image of part of the rock. The nodules continue. There are thousands. The rover gets a closer look using its Watson camera. Meanwhile, Ingenuity takes to the skies for Flight 62 and captures another breathtaking image. The image looks back down the delta face, reminding us that we are now on higher ground. Perseverance takes a drill sample. The team at NASA names the sample the Lefroy Bay sample. This sample will be stored aboard the rover and hopefully delivered to the sample return mission, which could fetch this sample back to Earth. As Perseverance starts another long drive, it's surrounded by rocks and must carefully choose a path. In this image, we can see that the rover has driven over many rocks. Meanwhile, Ingenuity performs a few more flights and is now closer than ever to the ancient river channel. Flight 64 provides the best color image yet of Neretva Vallis. You can clearly see the banks of the channel and the small tributary channel where the helicopter will land. Some would argue that the helicopter has landed in the ancient river. Could this small raised sandbar have once been an island in Mars history? Perseverance certainly has some catching up to do. For now, however, the rover is busy investigating the sand. You can see holes where the rover trained its laser. The rover takes a closer look using its supercam. Perseverance also spends a few days looking at the sky. Mars has thin clouds similar to cirrus clouds here on Earth, but they're made of ice and not water. The cold and thin atmosphere means that there's very little water vapor, so if all the water in the atmosphere were gathered, it would be thinner than a human hair. A solar conjunction is fast approaching. Mars will be behind the sun, and contact with Earth will be lost. Perseverance is looking for a good parking spot. Ingenuity performs a quick up and down flight before the conjunction and takes a color image. The image shows the dunes in the Neretva Vallis tributary channel. This area would be perilous for Perseverance. As the conjunction begins, Perseverance stops all driving. The team at NASA doesn't want to risk any signals being scrambled by the sun and Perseverance misinterpreting a message. The rover takes a detailed panorama while stationary. The team at NASA will receive this picture once the conjunction is finished.
You're watching Elderfox TV. We'd like to say a big thanks to our patrons in the top left. If you're enjoying the show, please consider joining our community. The list is updated daily, and your support helps us to continue our journey together.
In this video, disaster strikes the Ingenuity helicopter as a crash landing completely tears off its blades. Meanwhile, Perseverance tries to process the grief of losing its friend, with a bright object following it and an arm injury threatening the entire mission. This video is part of a series documenting the journey of the Perseverance rover and Ingenuity helicopter as they travel on Mars. It's Sol 988, or the 988th day of the mission, and communication with NASA has been reestablished after Mars went behind the sun in what's called a solar conjunction. Perseverance has been imaging the ground, observing dust movement, and taking this short sequence of images during the conjunction. Ingenuity has been doing the same thing. Back on Earth, groundbreaking research led by UCLA and the University of Oslo confirms through radar imaging that the Jezero crater is an ancient Martian lake, a discovery that significantly advances our understanding of ancient Mars. Between May and December of 2022, Perseverance drove from the crater floor toward the delta. During this time, the rover performed radar scans which have been analyzed and indicate distinct sediment deposition and erosion periods. This AI-interpolated video, created partly by UCLA, shows some of these drives. Perseverance looks around from its conjunction parking spot. NASA plans to eventually send the rover out of the crater to explore parts of Mars that no rover has ever seen. But first, Perseverance will get closer to the ancient river channel, which we can see has carved its way through the crater rim. Meanwhile, Ingenuity takes off for flight number 67 and captures two stunning images. This image shows the floor of the ancient river channel with the banks of the river clearly visible. Flight 67 takes Ingenuity squarely into the Neretva Vallis River channel. Meanwhile, Perseverance is traversed back to a region known as Naraloo Bay, close to the channel. The rover cannot enter the channel directly as the deep sand dunes pose a hazard.